We know the incomes of the top 1% have grown by more than 31%, yet incomes for the bottom 99% have moved less than 1%. And that inequality is what's causing the real problem that we have.
We once had a social structure that looked like a diamond. It's more and more looking like a pyramid.
Poverty is threatening our democracy. Poverty is a matter of national security. You put both of those things together, you get a very simple narrative. Poverty is the new American norm.
Let's look at poverty as a multi-dimensional problem. If we address the dimensions that are an integral part of poverty, we will begin to solve the problem.
In the 1920s, America had the highest gap in income distribution in its history, with the top 1% taking in nearly 24% of America's total income. The following decade would become synonymous with economic hardship and suffering of the majority of the American population.
In 2007, the top 1% took in 23.5% of America's total income, and the following year, America is hit with what is now known as the Great Recession. Yet still, our government maintains the policies that allow this disparity to exist and grow. As the top earners continue to increase their profits, the impoverished are not only losing more income, but growing in number. And caught in between is the shrinking middle class, the symbol of the American dream.
As this inequality grows, the pull yourself up by your bootstraps way of living that so strongly represented America as a place of social and economic mobility and freedom is dying.
The best way to look at income inequality is to look at it as a sort of framework to represent the problems that are most prevalent and important in America today. If you look at the spectrum of the income distribution in the United States, you've got some people at the top who are earning enormous amounts of money, and then you've got this long stretch of people at the bottom who are earning very little. And that bottom stretch of people, a lot of them are actually earning so little income that they're actually employed in a practice called wage slavery, which means that they have no disposable income to contribute to the economy. And because they earn so little, they in fact rely on welfare and food stamps in order to sustain themselves. Meanwhile, at the top, you've got people who are earning so much disposable income that they still have a lot of disposable income left over. And even though they do have a lot of disposable income left over that they can put towards investments, and a lot of them still do put them towards investments, the investments that they make or could make really doesn't justify the fact that they do so whilst millions and millions of people in this country live in destitution.
I mean, the effects of income inequality are much more pronounced than just simply having more money than the people below you. It extends to a lot more than that. Like, for example, say college education, which is necessary to get a skilled job nowadays. With the cost of college rising every day like it is now, people in underclasses simply can't afford it. Sure, there are merit-based scholarships, but they don't make up for the difference. So as a result, you have an upper class that has a monopoly on the human capital and on the wealth of the nation, whereas you have an underclass that simply can't obtain these skills. And it's creating a class society in America that's going to be very hard to erase. So while income inequality certainly is a problem in its own right, it's also indicative of a much larger concern within American society, and that's that more liberty means better liberty. And I think in society you can't say that's true when people are being enslaved by their wages and forced to work in horrible conditions because of the system that we have.
One of the biggest problems that income inequality creates is a cycle of poverty that people can get stuck in for literally generations. If you come from a poor background, you have less of an advantage. You aren't able to find a job as easily, you aren't able to go to school as easily, and that can breed a sort of defeatist attitude.
I've worked in a lot of schools with high percentages of kids coming from low socioeconomic backgrounds. Because they start so far behind, I feel like a lot of those students don't feel that they can keep up, that there's as much hope for their future. And as a result, I think a lot of those kids, they just feel their pathway blocked. And what happens is a lot of those kids end up dropping out because they have such a lack of hope. And then those kids, their opportunities are so limited in the country.
That old saying that the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer is as true today as it has ever been. As that gap builds and becomes further and further, we as a society are at risk of letting those who have the convenience of wealth and money and stability and comfort and prosperity govern all the decisions for those who don't. And those who don't, those are the ones who tend to have the least access to having their voices heard. Too often I feel the argument that's made that it's not on the shoulders of all of us to figure out, that tends to be the argument that in my mind is relatively immature. That kind of exists when you're only really thinking about yourself as opposed to the good of the whole.
There are so many divisions between the two major parties over what's to be done about this. I think that we need to recognize that it's not only one of the most important issues we're facing as a society today, it is something that isn't going to resolve itself. We're going to have to look for a solution that both sides of the issue can agree on. We're going to have to reach across the aisle. If we don't find a solution we can agree on, we're only going to spiral downward from here.
Income inequality in the United States is dismantling the American dream.
The opportunity that once was so tangible to people of all walks of life is now becoming a rare privilege, exclusive only to those born into it. Already, the ability of those in the lower class to rise in society is disappearing alongside the middle class.
When we allow the middle class to die out completely, it'll become nearly impossible to improve one's social and economic standing.
Those living in hardship will not be able to relieve their suffering or create a better life for their children.
The symbol of the American dream will be dead, and the rich will continue to be rich while the poor stay poor.
Unless we want our country to be divided into haves and have-nots,
rich and poor,
privileged and suffering,
we need to start creating fiscal policies which champion the majority of Americans in their fight to better themselves.
I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey. Well, I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey. Said I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. And if I share with you my story, would you share your dollar with me? Bad times are coming and I reap what I done sowed. Hey, hey. Well, let me tell you,